Hey friends, as blessedly introduced by Mickey, my name is Patrick. We're going to be talking about the bottom of the barrel, which is scraping Pastebin for obfuscated malware. This is an open source program that I'm going to be talking about. Its name is FIERCECROISSANT. You can check it out. The source code is going to be released later. So the plan, introduction, who the hell am I? Pastebin, what the hell is that? FIERCECROISSANT, why would you do this? Findings, what sort of terrible things are out there on Pastebin, and stuff you can try with FIERCECROISSANT when you download it. So me, OpenDNS, tailor. I love video games, dancing, musicals, helping people. You can see me dressed up for Dickens Fair in San Francisco. Come check it out. Pretend to be in Victorian London, because honestly, it's kind of less scary than now. And the barrel that is Pastebin. So if you don't know, Pastebin is a paste repository service, text sharing service basically. And it was founded in 2002. It allows you to store snippets of text, or more commonly code. The idea of a Pastebin originated in the 90s when programmers were like, I have this cool program, can you help me check it out? Sure, paste it in a bin and share it with me. And that's what happens. As of 2010, it reached 1 million pastes, but that was 8 years ago. It's got a lot more since then. And as of 2014, it has 1.5 million active user accounts with about 3 billion paste views. Like each paste was viewed, not each paste was viewed 3 billion times, but you know what I mean. One of the strengths of Pastebin is that you don't actually need a user account to paste anything, and you can delete stuff if you want. You can set it to delete it like 10 minutes, an hour, a couple months from now. And you, like I said, you don't need a user account. You can just post anonymously as a guest. And for that reason, there are lots of benign stuff that you may not want to attribute to yourself. Bad /fic, your Pokemon evolution strategies, how to run, speed run anything. There are tons of benign uses for Pastebin. It's a really popular service for that reason. But there's a lot of terrible stuff on Pastebin too. This is deep web links, how to access the dark web, and download Tor, get your drugs on Silk Road. Isn't that awesome? If you see up here, it has about 3 million paste views. That's the eyeball right there. And so a lot of people have seen this. There's definitely more nefarious stuff, disinformation campaigns, Clinton underground child sex scandal, the Pizzagate scandal that came out late 2016. This is posted on Pastebin. It has 357,000 views. People totally thought there was an underground pedophile ring in a tiny pizza restaurant in New Jersey. OPK, OpKKK, Hoods Off, 2015, demasking clanners in the South. Although, if it's a DDoS campaign, who knows if those are actual Klansmen or not. This was posted in 2015. It's probably got new views. And there's stuff like this. This is a .NET framework assembly just running and evaluating this Base64 string that starts like that. I'm sure that's totally benign. Like, I love to run obfuscated code all the time. More stuff. Here's PHP running similar stuff. Evaluate these Base64 strings and then just do them. What the fuck is happening? This is the beginnings of a project I got into when I started becoming part of the security analyst team. I've been approached for a long while as part of the customer service team, and then in the winter of 2016, when I joined the team, we had a company-wide hackathon, and we read this blog by Security saying websites, backdoors, leverage the Pastebin service. In essence, what happens is compromised websites use something like that executable to go and look for raw paste content on Pastebin, execute it, and then do whatever the program is. Because, like our keynote speaker was talking about, there are malicious executables everywhere. You can find them on Pastebin too. So this blog post sparked our interest. What kind of malware can we find? We're a malware protection company. This is our job. It's low-hanging fruit. Let's go out and grab it. What is there? And what else is there besides malware that we can, analyze? Because Pastebin is used for more than just strictly, malicious stuff. It's used for questionably malicious stuff too. Disinformation campaigns, as talked about before, data dumps, security breaches. Those are not questionably malicious, but it's hard for an automated intelligence or an automated program at all to just analyze it. You need some brains looking at it. So This is the start of FIERCECROISSANT, which is a scrappy little open source Python scraper. And there are 3 steps we use to block bad stuff on Pastebin. The first 2 are what FIERCECROISSANT will help you do. And the third step is up to you. So first step, Python. Super easy for a non-coding guy like me. My degree's in English literature. I wound into this job because I like helping people. And we're looking for non-human patterns. regex is really good for this. FIERCECROISSANT's a little greedy. It'll just grab 200 characters in a row, and that's the start of where it looks. So you grab a lot of stuff like links to various phishing sites or YouTube channels where you can view pay-per-view stuff, or /fic where people are screaming like, ah! That's 200 characters. Part 2 is decoding commonly used obfuscation techniques to find what those actual malware bits are. Common obfuscation techniques: Base64, hex, binary, ASCII. Those are pretty much the ones we find into, but we run into wrappers a lot. And then step 3 is where you come in. You've got your de-obfuscated malware. You can do whatever you want with it. At Cisco Umbrella, we throw it into threat grid because that's what Cisco has. It's proprietary stuff for us. And we take out the DNS information. But you could totally use VirusTotal, Joe's Sandbox, any sort of open source or proprietary stuff you have at your own work, your own, whatever you're developing on your own, to find out what this malware does. So step 1, scrape the bin. This is Python uses HTTP requests. It's a cool library for accessing pretty much anything on the internet. Go Python. And this is the core of what it scrapes for. We grab various things about the paste, check to see if it's untyped because malware authors are lazy. I won't tell you if they're writing in PHP or Java or C++, whatever. Grab everything from Pastebin and check out its size. Like, how big is it? This is kind of one of the failings of FIERCECROISSANT, which I'll get into. We look for something over a certain size. If it's under that, we'll just miss it. Need to change that, but you can too. Here's where I mentioned we just look for 200 characters in a row. It's not a human string. Humans weren't meant to read characters or words that are 200 characters long. But computers are really good at that, so let's find out what they're finding out. Here's the start of the magic sauce. If a Base64 encoded structure starts with TV and then OA, PB, PQ, QQ, QA, RO, and PA, what it will decode into is an MS-DOS executable. The start of Base64 as it starts like that will always, always, always decode into an MS-DOS executable. And we reverse that search because malware authors are lazy. Sometimes they will take their program, literally just reverse it, and then put it up on Paceman too. Binary matching, just looking for 1s and 0s, 200 of them in a row. And then hex matching, because people will put things on Pastebin that are malicious in hex format, either straight hex or encoded as raw bytes. And then part of what we found led us to these next 3 things: PHP matching, looking for anything that starts with a PHP declaration; image matching, because despite Pastebin only being for text, people have managed to put images on there through encoding; and then ASCII matching, looking for anything that encodes with ASCII values. Step 2, decoding it. All these decoders come with Pastebin, or come with FIERCECROISSANT, and they use native libraries to Python because it's easy. This is hex, just 22 lines of code. ASCII, 23. Binary, 24. Base64, 25. Easy. And so we check out what we've got. We grab that Base64. We throw it into a decoder. Shit, I can't read assembly. Thank you. And we find out that this program cannot be run in DOS mode. It has to be run at the command line level. So for our purposes, we run the malware. This is threat grid. We're looking for declarations from threat grid to tell us what this is. And like I said, you can use your own open source intelligences. Joe's Sandbox does something similar. VirusTotal will tell you, like, hey, 50 people flagged this as malware. In our case, we found Bladabindi, which is a Trojan being hosted on Paceman. And importantly for our case, we check out the DNS information. We found out cryptors.hopdo.org, which is a DDNS domain, because similar to why you would want to host on Paceman to begin with, hosting malware on DDNS domains is easy. You typically don't have to really pay for infrastructure all that much. You can't be blocked by A-list records if your IP address changes all the time. And if anyone finds you out, you're one of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of domains on the same, under the same structure. What is anyone going to do to you? No one's going to call the internet police on you. So interesting findings that we found. FIERCECROISSANT has found 57,000 pastes since May 2017, and we found about 2,200 domains worth of that. A lot of the malware seems to be sandbox aware, and so it'll get false responses, like it's just checking internet connectivity, making sure it can get out to Google or Facebook or whatever. But almost half of the malicious domains that we've found are DDNS domains. DDNS.org, Dyn.org, Hopdo.org, whatever. This allows actors to just host stuff and not care about it. What I've learned in my time as a security analyst is that a lot of malware authors are very lazy. Phishing is a low-cost, high-payoff kind of attack, because even if you only get 2 or 3 people to bite on the hook, like you've made your money back, right? You can spend $100 to send out a bunch of phishing emails to tens of thousands of people. If you get banking information for one of them and they have $101 in their account, great, you've turned a profit. Malware tends to come as either straight binary or Base64, or wrapped in some other language. I've seen Visual Basic, I've seen PHP, .NET, etc. People will also tend to go an extra distance when obfuscating their Base64 for whatever reason. Talk about that. And there's a lot of stuff on Paceman that surprised me. C99 shells, backdoor kits, defacement kits, phishing images maybe. Hard to say, and a lot of gibberish too. I pick up so many pay-per-view channels, I'm really sick of it, especially in Portuguese. I don't understand. Oh, and Filipino. There's a large Indonesian company that, there's a large Indonesian community that uses Paceman for various stuff. So, examples, clear Base64. Check that out, who wouldn't want to run that? Wrapped 64, this is Visual Basic, just dim this string and then run it. Here's that obfuscated Base64 I was talking about. They just substituted capital A for this, I believe it's a Chinese character. Reverse Base64, because malware authors are lazy. Binary, what do you want? It's ones and zeros. ASCII, similar to Base64, if it starts with 7790.144.030, it'll decode into an MS-DOS executable. Now, some more interesting findings. It's weird to me that malware authors would actually use their own accounts to host things, but they do. And you'll see these untitled things that have been hit several thousand times because this compromised website has been on for a long time. And more examples of check out all my Base64, all my binary, more stuff to decode and find out where it goes. C99 shells are hosted on Paceman a lot, which I found very interesting. If you don't know, shells are an interface for malicious actors to use their server that they've got without having to use a command line. Stuff like this is very ugly, but they could have a shell like this, which gives them access to poke around the server. They can read all the files. They can grab files from the server, see what's on there, make files available, delete them, what have you. Other cool examples, phishing images. I mentioned that images are hosted on Paceman because browsers are so smart that they can take Base64 encoded stuff and translate it for us, because we love computers and we want to make them easier for us. So if you start with data:image and then a slash, and then the image type, GIF, PNG, JPEG, whatever, and then tell it the encoding structure, in our case Base64, your browser will turn that into Permatabank, or at least this image. Permatabank, probably don't know, 8th largest bank in Indonesia, transparent background. I'm really confident that that's used in a phishing email somewhere or a phishing website. You can just paste your compromised website can just reference back to the raw value of this paste, and suddenly you've got this image here. Other phishing examples? Well, we've got this image. Google, cool. You just want to phish people at Gmail. And maybe some hidden information too. One of the coolest examples I came up with is this, which doesn't look like anything to human eyes, but similar to encoding structures. This might be steganographically hidden information. Computers can see a pattern in this if you can run it through a stego library. Bonus that has recently been coming up and is a talk tomorrow, which I encourage you to go to. People put PowerShell executions on Pastebin. Check out that talk tomorrow because there's a bunch of people there. So yeah, last part of my talk that I want to talk about is changes you can make on FIERCECROISSANT yourself. One of the earliest iterations of FIERCECROISSANT used keywords to search for. And if your company's in the financial sector, this is probably a good idea. You can search for SSID, data dumps, logins. People post all sorts of stuff on Pastebin that they didn't get legitimately, and you probably want to know about. You can change the alerting system. By default, FIERCECROISSANT uses HipChat as its messaging system because that's what we used at work at the time. But you could totally adapt it for anything else. Email, Python has pretty good email libraries natively. SMS through Twilio, they're out there. They probably want to talk to you. Slack, everyone uses Slack. You can scrape for particular users, as I mentioned. Some malware authors will just keep posting stuff on their own account. In one notable case, there is a user called Master Blazer or something, a name like that, who hosts a bunch of crypto mining stuff on his Pastebin account and then deletes them. So I'm particularly interested in him, and one of my variants of this scrapes for just him. And you can change the size of the paste that you look for. Like I said, FIERCECROISSANT looks for anything above 40K, but there's a rat that has been thrown up a lot on Pastebin recently. That's like 31.12K, and it's annoying because I haven't fixed FC to search for it yet. So that's about it, actually. Any questions? We got some time, 10 minutes, 11 minutes? Cool. Yes? So C99 shells are just like these shells that backdoor users who have compromised the server will have, so that people who don't want to rummage around in a shell system that they don't know, or rather a command line interface they don't know, can still impact the server. Plenty of low-grade malicious actors are just clicking on interfaces like this to make changes without having to know, how does a Unix file system work? Like, how do I make dir? How do I delete stuff? How do I RM? Yeah, script kiddies for sure. And this goes in line with phishing kits and rootkits and botnets being low cost. You can rent these services out to people. I don't want to learn how to rm-rf my entire directory. I will teach someone how to do it through the shell. Stuff like that. One of the things I should mention that I want to improve on for FIERCECROISSANT 2nd edition is the ability to report itself and to do uploads into specified sandboxes. So if you've got just a sandbox account, you can have FC just automatically upload it and then download the reports. Virus total, direct grade if you have access to it, that sort of thing. Good question. Other questions?
Are you able to pull the information for the expiration date?
Yes. FIERCECROISSANT natively grabs all of the metadata about paste, so it will grab the size, the user, the contents of the paste if it has an expiration date, and then it includes, based off of what we have seen, its own defined value called an encoding type, which we're like, is this ASCII, hex, Base64? Is it an image? Is it PHP? Or is it some gibberish that human mind has to look at later? So natively, it will grab it, and it also uses, by default, Mongo as its database. So because it's easy and really doesn't care what you throw into it, it's just like, yeah, I'll take it, as long as it's the same structure. So yeah, we do grab all the metadata about a paste, and if you play around with it later and you grab a paste that has an expiry of 0, then it means it's never set to delete. But expiration dates are also set in epoch time. So one thing a user did when I was teaching this at an in-conference talking about scraping Pastebin for obfuscated stuff is he took the expiry value minus the current time to check if pastes were set to delete so that he could like save them in a special place to go over them later. Yeah.
So you find something on Pastebin. What exactly is the next step after you determine, yes, this is malicious, this is a bad thing? Does Pastebin have reporting functions you use, or do you just have it?
Unfortunately, Pastebin's reporting function is on the web interface. You can't do it through an API or any call. It would be cool to alert Pastebin themselves about automated stuff like, hey, this is a rat that's just surfing. But they don't have really good mechanisms for that, which is kind of why FC exists as a tool, to give individual users the option to do what they want to with it. Either block the domain, in our case at Cisco Umbrella, maybe proactively go out and report. I'm sure you could use Selenium to just like, hey, I found this bad paste. I've got the key. I'm going to go and click on that report button and get people, get bad guys in trouble. As Captain Planet says, the power is yours. Do what you'd like to. I know that at least one banking company that saw this presentation was like, and we're totally going to use this to report all the phishing images we see. So yeah.
When running this, do you run into any rate limiting issues while scraping?
Yes, Pastebin has, and much to our consternation, one of the earliest versions of FIERCECROISSANT made requests of each individual paste and like very quickly choked Paceman to death, and they were like, no, stop it. We've since tuned FIERCECROISSANT to be better about scraping, and Pastebin's fact on scraping is actually really good. They recommend scraping once every minute the latest 100 pastes. So FC does that by default now. One of the unfortunate things about Pastebin is that you have to pay for a paid account in order to scrape the service. So it's not too expensive. It's 40 to 50 bucks, and it's a really good treasure trove of information. But I have contributed way too much money to Paceman in service of this project. So yeah, that's something I've learned. But rate limits were definitely a problem, and I, as someone who did not know what coding was really when I got started, was like, why does it keep timing out? I don't understand. And then I do a curl to Paceman's API, and they would tell me, stop it. Like, just slow down. So yeah, rate limits were a problem.
Did you ever try and pull the exit data off of any of the images?
No. To do for later. That's a good idea. And I think one of the cool things that the keynote highlighted is that various perspectives will give you a lot more information and a lot of cool ideas. So I would totally use that maybe and suggest it to the rest of my team. It's particularly good in our use case because one of the things we want to try to do is automate phishing blocks. And so like if you're doing phishing images that are just hosted on Pastebin and we can find that, we'll be like, yeah, I blocked that immediately.
Black Friday sale on Pastebin almost every year for $5.
That's true. Pastebin does do Black Friday sales. They do deals all the time. You can stay on top of it. And I really recommend it just as either a hobbyist or a professional. There's lots of stuff there. You'll never know what you'll find.
Did you ever find anything like that looks like a 0-day inside of an image or 0-day executable inside of stuff that shouldn't have code?
To be honest, I have not. A lot of the images seem to be just like people using Pastebin as a cheap version of Dropbox. Like people will put images for like Facebook fishes and then also their own personal use for the stuff. I've seen a lot of anime portfolios. It's been weird. But I also have seen like less images than I thought I would expect. We've caught like 57,000 pastes, but I imagine the number of images like we found through this structure are probably less than 200, to be honest. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, people could upload Excel spreadsheets that have macros uploaded, and like then we get into all of those problems. So there's a wealth of stuff to find. I'm sure it has been there. One of the things about Pastebin being used for malware is it's been this way since at least 2012. People have used Pastebin in this way. There was a talk at RSA, like 2012 or 2013, saying like, "This is happening. Be aware of it." So, for sure. In the front. Oh.
Have you thought,
Last question. Yeah.
is this up on GitHub?
Oh yeah. Open source up on GitHub. I'll give you the github.com/chaotic requiem because I was an edgy 90s teen /FIERCECROISSANT. And feel free to add me on Twitter or email me and stuff like that. Last shout out actually is a Twitter account I followed because of this project called Scumbots, so @Scumbots, which does a lot of the same thing, but it uses Twitter to broadcast like, hey, here's a malicious paste. And that's how I found out about both the ASCII encoding and the PowerShell executables. Cool. So thank you so much for your time, and yeah, have a great conference.